All right, guys. I'm starting this podcast. My name's Mireles. I'm from Hacienda Heights, California. And I'm going to kind of get into this podcast to talk about like personal experiences, business, relationships, my daughter now that I have a daughter, kind of a variety of different things. We really talked about not putting any boundaries on this as to be able to leave leeway and to kind of go into multiple different topics because I don't want to brand myself as just like a success person or a motivational speaker or, someone that can, just shoot down advice when I feel that I'm not, where I want to be yet. So I kind of wanted to leave this podcast open to a variety of different things. First off, we'll jump right into it and kind of childhood and like a little background on myself and my personal upbringing. I come from a middle-class family, so, I didn't go without, but also there's a lot of things that we didn't have, and going to a private school, which my parents sacrificed a lot to send me and my sister both. You're exposed to multiple levels of income from different people, and I feel like that was one of the biggest things or biggest sparks under my ass when it comes to, wanting more is, seeing others that have more than you and they be perfectly humble. Just because you may have more does not mean that, you have to be an asshole or that you are, that you're a bad person. So I feel like that was one of the biggest things that kind of sparked, my entrepreneurial, aspect of my life was kind of being exposed to different things that, I hadn't seen before and asking myself, why can't I have this? So that was definitely a big factor in that. Growing up, I always played sports. Soccer was probably the biggest sport that took up the most of my time. From a young age, I feel like a lot of people, have like this, this picture that they paint for themselves, like, yeah, I'm going to be this professional athlete. It's good to dream because a lot of this podcast and what I'm going to be talking about is being able to dream. Because I feel like if you're going to be a successful business person, you have to be able to dream and you have to be able to think outside of the box. And I feel like playing sports and, allowing you to paint that picture for yourself of like, hey, maybe I can achieve this, high school varsity team, or maybe I can, play college or soccer at the collegiate level or eventually at the professional level. If you have that ability to dream, there's the possibilities are endless. And I know that sounds cliche, but the first step in achieving your goal is being able to envision it. And if you can't envision it, then there's, no really step-by-step play on how you're going to get there because you have to see the end result or some type of end result in order for you to create that process of achieving that goal. So, I feel like sports definitely was a strong suit of mine and helped me, discipline and also kind of, look at the bigger picture because obviously I wanted to play soccer in college and playing professionally was like a goal of mine too. But, things, change along the way. You take different pathways. And everything happens for a reason. So that was another avenue in my life that led me to become who I am. And sports has definitely shaped me into being able to understand that hard work and practice is definitely a precursor in a way to getting to where you want to be. Because same thing with being in business is if you're not going to put in the time or the effort, then, how do you expect your business to grow? Because a lot of times people want that instant gratification, or a lot of times now people that I've come across at the gym where I'm one of the owners over there and the founder, you come across a lot of people that, you bring on and all of a sudden they expect to be compensated a certain way, they expect to be paid a certain way, and they haven't put in any time. And I feel a lot of people feel like you owe them something as soon as they come in or walk through the doors. And especially coming from a startup, it doesn't work like that. You have to put in the time, you have to pay your dues. Right now at the gym where we're at, we require an internship, an unpaid internship before you even are considered to be hired on, because I want to know that you're able to put in the time and the effort and not be worried about what's in it for me from the get-go. Yes, you have to be concerned about those things, but when you're paying your dues and trying to be part of a bigger picture, that shouldn't be your ultimate first concern. It should be learning, absorbing, and putting in the time and, kind of like earning your stripes, so to say, like you would in sports. You have to put in the time, whether you're captain or you're trying to, go for a certain position, you have to put in the time and the effort and prove yourself. So we'll kind of jump into schooling. I was privileged enough for my parents to send me to St. Mark's. That was the local private school in the area, and I really feel that it shaped me and, like I said before, exposed me to things that I wasn't familiar with or probably wouldn't be as familiar with if I had went anywhere else. Went on to go to Bishop Vermont, a little bit of Cal State Fullerton, but I didn't graduate. I'm probably about, I think, like 9 or 12 units shy of my bachelor's, but that's another story because I took a leap of faith to stop going to school and jump on an opportunity, which is probably why I'm doing this podcast, and start my venture into the fitness industry, into personal training, health and wellness, and things like that. I plan on hopefully going back and finishing, but that all depends on how business is going and if I'm going to get some time to do that. Because people are like, oh, I don't need to go to school. You do not need to go to school to make money, but it's, education and furthering your knowledge is very important. So whether you're going to do that in a classroom setting or on your own, I feel that either of the two is important. You can't just not learn and expect to be successful. You're going to have to choose one avenue or another to continue your education. So whether it's reading up on things on your own or, learning from others, it's definitely something that you want to continue with. And kind of going back to where I was at prior to opening up the gym. And, I've had I'm probably not going to name these in chronological order, but out of high school, I had my first job, I believe it was selling knives. I did network marketing. And network marketing, I attest probably my sales skills and everything that I've learned when it comes to talking to people or door knocking and door-to-door sales comes from network marketing. And I feel like that's something that I recommend to every business person prior to setting foot into their journey is join some sort of network marketing pyramid scheme type of business for the sole purpose of they're going to teach you the best marketing strategies and how to overcome no's and how to redirect questions to close a sale, and find something that you want to sell because you have to believe in the product in order for you to want to learn about it because there's a lot of shit out there that people just sell and, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to get this gold star because I sold 500 products. But, you're going to want to sell something that you're at least somewhat believe in because it's going to provide a lot of value in terms of sales. So my first job, going back to that, was knives, kitchen knives. I remember going to this interview with like 20 different people, and I remember getting this letter in the mail that my mom gave to me, and it was like, yeah, you can make $24 an hour, straight out of high school. And I was like, dude, like, all right, so it's too good to be true. Like, how am I gonna make $24, 18 years old, fucking high school diploma? And they're like, yeah, you're gonna need to wear a suit and tie or a dress shirt and tie and some slacks. And I'm like, perfect. I like getting dressed up. $24 an hour. I'm 18 years old. I'm gonna be rich, man. Like, this is it right here. I'm gonna be fucking selling knives for the rest of my life. So I went to this meeting, and I remember being around a bunch of other people. Everybody's all dressed up, young, teenagers. Or not young teenagers, but I guess in our late teens, 18, 19, but still young adults going to this meeting and talking about the opportunities of what this Cutco can do for you. And that was the first time I was sold on something. And from that point on, I knew that I wanted to be in business. That was probably one of the turning points in my life as well as to I wanted to be in business. I liked the look. I liked being professional. I liked, having this, I guess, stigma, so to say, that I can be like this businessman. I have my own personal business. I'm going to go around to people. I'm going to sell something to them. I'm going to close them. I'm going to tell them why they need this product. I like this product. Part of that meeting that we first went to is, they gave us these kitchen shears. And they're like, yeah, these kitchen shears are so strong, they can cut a penny. And fuck, they cut a penny with the fucking kitchen shears, and I was sold, bro. I thought I was gonna go fucking everyone's house. I was gonna cut up a bunch of pennies, and they were just gonna be like amazed, like, holy shit, I need to buy this, And it was just at that point on, I knew that if you could create a feeling inside a person and show them why they need something, then that's how you know you're a good salesperson. That's how you're a closer. Because if they fucking closed me, I mean, anybody could probably fucking close me at 18 years old. But, from that point, if you give someone that feeling and why they need something, whether it's a fucking soccer ball, whether it's a microphone, a pair of shoes, like, bro, you need these. All the girls are going to want you if you fucking have this Gucci belt. Everybody has a fucking Gucci belt now, right? Like, if you can create this feeling inside someone and, get them to want to buy something, then that's how you know you're going to be a good salesperson. And that's what this network marketing had taught me in this door-to-door knocking. And that was the first time I was introduced to leads, following up with leads. That was the first time I was introduced to role playing on cold calling phone calls. And I attest a lot of the things that I do now, and a lot of the stuff that I help teach my guys, and a lot of the stuff that when people ask me for questions goes back to network marketing. When I was a part of this Cutco, when I was a part of like the Herbalife 24, which personally I'm not a fan of anymore, now that I am, deeper on into my fitness and wellness. That was one of the major turning points, was a Cutco, and I'll get into the Herbalife later. But another thing, after I did the Cutco for a little while, I kind of got frustrated. I wasn't getting as many sales as I wanted. And I was looking for more of a stable income, I guess you could say, because that's a lot of the problems I get now is the stable income. So, I did make sales. I wasn't the best, out of the whole, because, it's something that you definitely have to practice. And, age has another thing to do with it. Being young and going in and into a somebody's house and asking them to pay $800 or $900 to an 18-year-old for a set of fucking knives, that it's kind of a big purchase, and it's, you're kind of a little, sketched out by it, so to say, because you're like, okay, I know this is probably some type of pyramid scheme. This guy's coming in, cutting up pennies in my house, chopping up a bunch of stuff, and he wants me to pay $800 for these fucking knives. So, it definitely helped me overcome certain rebuttals. So definitely thankful for Cutco, but, spending too much time on that, kind of want to dabble into some other things. One of the second jobs I had is from my dad. He definitely instilled in me some hard work, and I'm thankful for the next thing I'm about to explain is probably when I was like 18 or 19 years old, around the same time I was doing the Cutco, he made me go work for about 8 or 9 months, maybe a little less, over at his job. And it was in a corrugated box company, warehouse job. So he got me in the job in the warehouse with the guys. I was working 2:30 to 2:30. I was over here slaving away in this hot ass warehouse, working 12-hour days. And I vividly remember him telling me that, Aaron, I want you to work here for this duration of time because this is what I don't want you to do. And that definitely stuck out to me too, because there's nothing wrong or nothing against people that, that's what they do, working in the warehouses and things like that. But it's definitely not what I want to do or what I seen myself doing, for the sole purpose that there's a ton of other ways to make money and not have to slave away at something or feel that you're being underpaid. Because I remember I was working 12-hour days. I was through a temp agency. I was making $8.25 an hour, and I was working alongside with people who were doing the same fucking job, making $20 an hour because they were hired on employees. And I was like, dude, what the hell am I doing? Fucking $8.25. I'm working 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and my checks at the end of the week were like $325. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like, all the taxes getting taken out of this shit. It was just ridiculous. And that was one of the turning points as well. I was like, I like making money, but at the same time, I'm not getting paid what I'm worth. That goes back to what I'm talking about, being young and being straight out the hole and expecting, this massive amounts of money when you haven't paid your dues. So I'm thankful for that, because it definitely taught me a lot in terms of, what hard work is and, what you don't want in life. And it was basically to show me like, hey, Aaron, stay in school and you need to do something other than this. And that was definitely a red flag in my life very early on, is to show me as what I don't want. So I'm very thankful for that. So during that time, I was at Cal State Fullerton. I was working at Hollister, and I went for my NESTA certification. And that's kind of where my whole personal training thing unraveled. I was about 19 years old, maybe 20 years old, like pushing 20. I had just gotten that NESTA certification, and I went for one interview at 24, and I went for one interview at LA Fitness. I got hired on at 24, and I also got hired on at LA Fitness But I chose to take the route of LA Fitness just for the sole purpose of what I was promised. And I will definitely say I've learned a lot from being over there in that short time that I was there. That's kind of where my personal training journey and fitness entrepreneur journey started. So I trained there for about a year, long story short. You know, gathered a good amount of clients. And then I started working. I worked a little bit of sales there as well. Um, and that's kind of when things started to click. I was like, man, I'm making $7.50 for training each of my clients, and they're half-hour sessions. And my clients are paying $35 to see me, and I'm making $7.50. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't add up. So I started to do that. I started training clients on the outside while still training some clients at LA Fitness. And then I was also starting up a boot camp over at Thomas Burton Park over here in Hacienda Heights. So I'd started a Facebook page, you know, kind of branding. We created a logo. It was called Top Tier Fitness. And that was the first time around with the boot camp. And I remember towards the end of my LA Fitness career, I got a call from the VP. So I remember that one night that I got canned. And at that point in time, I was like, all right, Aaron, it's time to do this now. Like, you're gonna have to go full throttle on your own. No one's gonna be there to hold your hand. No one's gonna be there to feed you clients. You're gonna have to start marketing. You're gonna have to start stepping it up. And if you really think that you're cut out for this fitness industry and this entrepreneur lifestyle, then you know this is where you're gonna get put to the test. Super grateful for a good friend of mine, Holden, who owned a gym that was over there off Vincent and San Bernardino, in Covina. It was called Formula Fitness. He took me in and gave me a spot to train, obviously for a rent. So I paid him a rent, and I trained there for a little while. And he allowed me to build my clientele over there. And a couple months had passed. I was there for a little while. I had experienced my next obstacle. He was going to be closing down Formula Fitness. He was going to be moving to another city, I believe, and he was no longer going to have that gym. So I faced another obstacle. I had to tell my clients. I remember that was like around maybe October of 2012. I believe that was October of 2012 that he had told me, he's like, hey, bro, you know, we're going to close down the gym. You know, you're going to have to find another spot to train. And I was like, fuck. So you know, kind of a couple weeks had went by. I was training some people at 24, training some people at Gold's Gym, and I was also training people at the park. At that point in time, I was considering moving down to San Diego with a friend and kind of pursuing my fitness journey over there. There was a lot of stuff going on within that month, with that month to 2 months. But then in November, I get another phone call from Holden that he's like, "Hey, bro, I kept some of my equipment and I opened up, or I didn't really open up. We just put it inside this small warehouse over in Covina, and that was another change of pace and a milestone in my life. Something I hold super dear to my heart. That specific little dungeon gym that he had moved his equipment to was just kind of a bare warehouse. Had some weights in there, laid some flooring, and he had asked if I wanted to train my clients there. And I was like, you know what? Cool, man. I'm there. There was a couple other people that worked out there, but I was the only trainer. He had that little setup for about 3 months. And he's like, hey, man, you know what? I'm not going to be able to have this here. We ended up continuing moving or move wherever we're going to move. He's like, I could sell you this place. You know, the equipment, you could take over this lease. And I had just been there for a couple months. I was kind of getting back on my feet, and I was like, how am I going to do this? You know, like this is where it's at. You know, I got to take this leap. He offered me to buy all the equipment, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to figure it out. He's like, you're going to have to transfer this lease into your name. And at 20, 21 years old, I was like, all right, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but we're going to figure it out. So luckily, you know, I had some money saved. I sold a couple of things that I had that I could get some money. And then I asked a couple of people. And then I finally asked my grandma and grandpa for a $5,000 loan. And I was like, you know, I remember going there one night and just kind of sitting down and talking to them and talking about the vision that I had and what I wanted to do and how I was going to repay them and kind of painting this picture as to, what I can do for them eventually, or just this dream that I had that I was just kind of explaining to them. And kind of with really no hesitation, my grandpa and grandma, they were just like, yeah, I'll give it to you. So I went down, I told Holden, I was like, look, dude, I have this $5,000 cash plus what I had saved up to make you that first payment. And I knocked that out. We went over to the landlord's building, the property manager's building, got the lease squared into my name. And then I signed a contract with Holden for some other stuff that I was going to be paying. And I was like, look, I'm going to make you these payments each month. I'm going to pay, at that time, for the building rent was like $900 or like $950 for the month. And I really had no fucking idea how I was gonna do it. But I was like, that's almost $2,000 in expenses, and I haven't even put my first month as the first owner of this small gym. And by all means, it wasn't anything crazy, it wasn't anything extravagant, but it was mine. It was something that I could call my own. That I took this leap of faith to figure it out, and that's what I was going to do. So I had hit up a couple other trainers and asked them to come over, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be able to afford this right off the get go just by myself with the amount of clients that I have and what I'm charging them, and the overhead. That was the first time I was kind of experiencing, Aaron, you got to pay rent now. Like, you got to pay, like, you're responsible for rent. You're responsible for your electricity. You're responsible for Wi-Fi. You're responsible for all these different things. And then, that was kind of shaping me into like this business person. Like, okay, hey, like this is a real deal now. It's go time. This is what you wanted. And you got to step up to the plate. So I brought in a few other trainers that came over for a little while. At that place, I probably went through like 15 different trainers that were, getting into the fitness industry and trying to branch in off their own, and, you know, go into the private personal training as opposed to the corporate personal training. And, was there for a while, kind of got the loop of things. I met Brandon and Corey, who are my business partners now at our new location. So things just kind of, it's kind of a brief summary of that, but things kind of started falling into place. Got that gym going on its own, brought people in, trained them, showed the trainers that what it took to be in business on your own and train clients on your own, and kind of how the ropes worked, and kind of painted this picture because people were seeing what I was doing. They're like, okay, cool, I want to do that too. And so I helped them get started, and now when we moved over to our new location, I sold them a portion of the business that we had created, and kind of that led us to where we're at now. But that's on another topic. But that was kind of like the gist of that, what had started, kind of where I'm at with the gym, and kind of in a brief summary of where I'm at, up until probably the year 2016 of what had happened from 2013 to 2016, all those years, learning about conditional use permits, learning about liability release waivers, learning about the whole bit, kind of when I dabbled into, getting into that gym, there's a lot of factors that come into play. I had two clients have seizures, and I had to learn about going over, medical histories from 3 to 5 years back, even though those certain conditions have not been a issue within the past year or two. Making sure I get an in-depth medical history on certain people that are prone to seizures or different things. I worked with people who have Parkinson's, MS. During that time I had that gym, I was working at a couple of senior homes with the elderly, doing, that whole gerokinese bit, because that's what I had an emphasis in over at Cal State Florida when I was in the kinese program, was the gerokinese. And that was something that, because I always wanted to help my grandma and grandpa, stay active. So I've always been super close to them. And that was kind of one of the pictures that I painted for them. I actually currently train my grandma now. I had done the elderly stuff for a while. So a bunch of different things to make money. I had gotten into vending machines. I had a couple vending machine routes that I was working on to kind of just make sure that during that time that I was over at that gym, that I can always be sure to pay the rent. And there was always something that I was dabbling into, in addition to the training, and what I could learn, what I could get into, and what I could do. And kind of towards the end, when I was at the gym, probably in 2015, me and another friend had opened up a pho restaurant. And that was kind of the first major hit that I took, in terms of losing money and kind of having like an eye-opening experience when it comes to business, going into business with people and choosing a correct partner and learning how to do contracts and, kind of making sure that you're squared away. Cause at 21, 22 years old, I really didn't know shit about the legalities of things and what I was getting into. I was just kind of going in blindly and hoping that I was making the right decision. But I want to save that story for another podcast because that's something that I want to dabble into and go over like my first real loss, my first business loss that I took. Because not everything is going to be a win. You're definitely going to take some heavy losses. And I took one early on. And I'm fortunate that I took it early on. Because in retrospect, some of the people that I've talked to that have taken some big losses, some big time CEOs that I've talked to, they're like, Aaron, that loss was nothing. And I'm thankful that I was able to learn earlier on rather than later on and take a bigger loss. But you know, business is business, so we could even take a loss tomorrow. So hopefully not, but that's kind of where we're at. So I'll dabble that into later on. And that's kind of where it leads me at, where I'm at now in terms of with the gym. We're over here in City of Industry. We've, turned the gym into personal training, boot camps. We have team members on board with us that, we create this vision with, and that's super important is going back to what I was talking about before, being able to dream and create this vision because, just because you're this entrepreneur person or, you have this mindset, you have to have the ability to paint a picture for someone or team members on your team to show them that they want to be a part of something. Because if there's just a cap or a ceiling for somebody, and most likely the people that you want working for you are going to be growth oriented. So if you show them a cap or a ceiling, they're not going to want to be a part of that. So if you show something where they can continuously grow, make moves with you, grow with you, and there's constant opportunity, and they can stay aligned with that vision that you can paint for them, then you're going to have a better chance of being successful. And that's personally something that I could attest to is trying to, it's one of the hardest things to do, having this dream and then explaining it to other people. But I feel like if you can get someone else to comprehend with what you're trying to do and, stay aligned with that, then that's how you're going to allow your business to grow. Because it's real easy to be, I feel the term entrepreneurs used so loosely now, and business owner, like you have a fucking t-shirt company and now you're like a fucking business owner or, so be it. Yeah. Like, maybe you're going to grow into a big brand, right off the bat, but, I don't consider myself a CEO. I consider myself self-employed entrepreneur for the sole purpose that, I still have a lot of growing to do. I feel like everybody, this is for another podcast I'm going to talk about. I feel like, everybody just is so quick to be self-made or the CEO of a company, but yet you're the only person in there. I understand you have this vision, but like I said, going back, you have to put your time in. You have to build a team. You have to be able to, be able to step away from your business and then for it to run by itself. And that's something that I feel passionately about from all the stuff that I've went into. And then I see some people, they just create an Instagram, print a couple of t-shirts, and all of a sudden they're a CEO of something. And it's like, there's really no risk to that. Like, what did you really risk to get into that? Like, I may not know their whole backstory, but some people I do know, and they just throw that term, loosely. And it's, it kind of, ruffles my feathers a bit. Just I'm like, damn, like I wish I can get into detail of everything that I've kind of got into, and maybe I will in future podcasts. But yeah, so I'm going to leave this podcast here. I'll probably touch base off of, a couple of different other topics that I mentioned here, like the pho restaurant, the CEO, obstacles, a couple different things. Like I said before, this podcast is not going to be motivation. It's not going to be success. I'm going to talk about losses. We're going to talk about life. Now that I have a daughter, I want to talk about that. I'm going to be interviewing friends. I'm going to be interviewing other entrepreneurs, even if they're not in line with the same industry. Like, I'm having an interview come up with Emilio, talk about his story, what led him to be successful in what he's doing, and the routes that he's taken. So we're going to have a lot of content coming your way. And, I just hope that you guys like what's going on. All right. Thanks. I'll talk to you guys later.